going on, guys? How are you doing? Um, I am trying to make sure that this is up and working at Rumble just as well as YouTube. How is your guys' weekend going? Hopefully, it is delightful. I'm trying to pull up the live stream in between Rumble and YouTube. It always takes a hot minute, so I appreciate your patience. And there it is. Cool. That's exciting. So it's actually working correctly. Make sure that I'm not jamming out listening to myself, but I'm looking perfect. So let's test it out. Send it. That test works. See if the live is working on the YouTube. Looks like it's working. All right, awesome, guys. So we're going to get into more of this book of Revelation because I am curious and it is working. So let's listen to Shane J. Wood, not like a Toyota, but I did anyways. Let's go ahead and pop in here and listen to this. And just if you guys have any thoughts, comments, questions, let me know because I'm going to be listening. And then I'm also going to read this devotional and see what day 2 has to say. That one's actually pretty quick. It says, John engages the readers with imaginative images and languages. If we can imagine everything God will do and how we will utterly overcome it, it will influence how we live today. That's why imagination is so important. As you read today, allow God to meet with you through your imagination. So, let's check it out. And if you guys are new to this, I think that you will enjoy listening to this. Let me know if you have any questions. We're actually in chapter 2 of the book of Revelation. And let's check it out here. All right. So this is about 30 minutes in. So if you listen to the first one, this is just a continuation. And if you missed it, it's in the second part of day 1. So let's see what's going on and welcome. I see some new viewers popping in. Hope you guys are doing well. And I'm going to let it go here. So I'll stop every once in a while. And if you guys have comments or questions, let me know. I will pause for you. Not that I have the right answers, but I will at least attempt to shed some light or look things up or ask people that know, and I'll be back with it. So let's go.
My last, well, flip the page. It says 23, but I believe it is 23. That's right. I got that page number right. At the bottom half of the journal or the newspaper article you're supposed to read, there's another article, but if you look on the far right side, there's numbers. And it's Dr. Lowry is being interviewed by Steve Arney. And Lowry he gives 10 different reasons why setting dates is so dangerous. The first one is this. It can ruin a believer's faith when the prophecy fails to come to pass. Do you see the danger there? It's not just about Christian witness. It can also be a danger to us.
So this is just to catch you up if you're just joining. This is talking about prophecy. So we're going to continue on with it, but I just want to let you know what he is talking about. So he's in like the minute of a 55-minute lecture talking about prophecy and what it actually means instead of what we think it means.
We're making these predictions we think are from God and they don't happen. It can damage your faith. Number 2, it can ruin a teacher's reputation when the prophecy fails. You know, this is something that we need to be held accountable more to in the Christian society. Because the same people that were making these predictions about 1982 and 1988 are still considered prophetic experts. And that blows my mind. I'm like, if you fail at the one thing you're considered an expert, can I call you an expert anymore? But we let them slide. We still listen to them. We still buy their books. We still are like, oh, well, you see my problem. If they're getting it wrong, then they need to repent instead of making excuses. Now, I'm starting to get in a little bit of a response to the Pat Robertson thing, but they need to repent, not excuse themselves. Don't get me wrong. Whenever in Philippians, when Paul's talking about, whenever.
Hey, welcome, Kevin B. Thank you for attending. Let me know if you got any thoughts or questions about this one. This is only about 25 minutes long, but I'm gonna break it up, just interacting with you guys. But I'm gonna let him talk too.
People from Philippi write to Paul and they say this guy's not preaching the right gospel. And what does Paul say? Well, as long as the gospel's being preached. But Paul doesn't say that guy's still okay. Paul says, well, I'm glad the gospel's being preached, but don't get me wrong. I'll start praying against that guy probably. I want him to, quote unquote, shut up, to keep his mouth quiet, because he's doing damage to the...
Michael and Kevin, you guys are in the right place. Stay buckled up, boys.
Gospel. In other words, what I'm saying is I know we're infallible, or I know we're not infallible. I know we're not. I know that we make mistakes. But we'll get to there. Hold on. I'm not gonna finish that. I'm getting off track. Number 3, it makes a mockery of the Christian faith when the prophecy fails. That should be a concern to us as well. You are a Christian. And if this is reflecting on Christianity, it makes you look like a fool as well. Number 4, it can turn a person away from the Christian faith if the Christians don't get it right. And this was interesting. Last night, I didn't realize Lowry had said the same thing. I was like, well, I must have heard it from him. If Christians don't get it right about the second coming, how can they get it right about the first? Number 5, it can keep believers from planning for the future. In other words, why do I need to worry about 1989 if it's going to end in 1988? The doomsday cults did the same thing. A lot of them, they sell all their possessions because it's all going to end, right? There can be a danger in that. Number 6 can lead to destructive behavior, wishing for World War III. This is fascinating. It does not seem Jesus-like to me to get giddy whenever conflicts start in the Middle East.
Yeah, what do you guys think? There's a lot of fantasizing about the end of the world, right? So I see you, Zach. God bless you too, Rui, and I'll shout out your friend Nick, cause. But anyways, I think a lot of people get off on the weeds about preparation. They prepare everything, their whole entire house. They just forget to prepare their heart, their mind, their spiritual side, right?
People are going to die that don't know Jesus, and that gets me excited. You see my problem with that? We're going to talk about Armageddon in a couple of weeks and how that's been about as misconstrued as prophecy. Number 7, it can lead to indifference concerning social problems. Number 8, can lead to deception when the prophecy fails. Yes. Number 9, it wastes the believer's time. And number 10, has not been successfully predicted thus far. So now I'm coming to... Do you understand that? Have I made my case of how dangerous it can be to define prophecy as strictly prediction? Does that make sense? It can... I think I've made my point. I'm seeing nods. I'll move on. So let's look at what the Bible defines prophecy as. If you look on, and it says 16 through 20, but it actually is...
This is actually... seeing kids in Trace. Trace is the church I go to, so I was helping in the kids department today. But so the cool part about this is, like, so many people think prophecy means like predicting the future, but he's breaking it down. And if you didn't catch it, this is the beginning half of it in the first 30 minutes in the part 2 of day 1.
17 through 21. You have...
Yassine, I'll be in Germany in a week or 2. I'll see you soon at Oktoberfest, maybe.
Of a handy-dandy chart. Now, this is not homework, so don't gasp or anything like that. But what I've done is if you want to do further study, or if you want to prove that what I'm saying is right or wrong, what I've done is I've listed every single time in the English that the words prophecy, prophesy, or to prophesy occur in the Bible. Every single time in the English they occur. They're all listed over here where it says text. And what I've done is I put a big section in the middle for you. It says context. And so whenever you read the passage, you can write what context is being written there, or being talked about there. Then there's 3 columns. And the question is prophecy, declarative, or don't know. Because the fact of the matter is sometimes the words used, you just flat out don't know if they're predicting something or if they're just declaring something. You don't know. But here's what I found. Whenever you do that study, less than 12% of the time are the words prophecy, prophesy, and to prophesy used in conjunction with prediction. accept. So that means over 88% of the time in the Bible, when it says the word prophecy, prophesy, or to prophesy, it's not talking about a prediction at all. Do you hear that stat? But how do we define prophecy? We define it as the less than 12%. Now, I'm not up here standing up here saying that there is no prophecy in the Bible that is a prediction. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. I'm admitting at least less than 12% of the time it is talking about that. However, if the overwhelming majority of the time is not talking about prediction, what should be the overwhelming majority of my definition of prophecy? Not prediction. You see my problem? In other words, once again, I'm asking the question, how is the Bible defining this? And if I look up every single time the word's used, and 88% of the time it's not, are you following me? If it's not talking about prediction, then maybe I need to alter my definition, or maybe I need to broaden it, and make prediction where it needs to rightfully be, and that's secondary in prophecy. A side note. A rare occurrence. Okay? Let's keep developing this. What I believe prophecy is, revealed through the Bible, is this. Prophecy is a revelation. Now, I know that's a vague word. But it's a revelation about three things. Number one, it is about who God is. It also reveals what God desires. And the third thing that it reveals is what God demands from us. So whenever you see a prophecy, these three elements are going to be in there somewhere. Because this is the main purpose of what a prophecy is to do. It is to reveal to us who God is, what God desires, and what God demands from us. Now, I'm not going to simply just state this and not show it to you. I want to show it to you by using one of the really
Yassine, you said, do I believe in the book of Enoch? Truthfully, I have not read it yet. First, I'm trying to read the whole Bible through, and then after that, I am trying to get into the other things off in the weeds, so like the book of Enoch, Old verse New Testament, the Bible verse the Quran, all sorts of things like that.
Impressive predictions in the Bible. Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 7. There's this fancy chart I got from Larry Pachauer. He's a professor at Ozark Christian College. And what it does is it pictorially shows what happens in Daniel 2 and Daniel 7. If you see right over here, this is Daniel chapter 2. Do you guys remember what happens in Daniel chapter 2? Anybody? Yes. Nebuchadnezzar has a dream. You see, in our culture, dreams don't mean much. We think, well, it was just indigestion, or I went to sleep watching a murder movie, and they don't mean much to us. But in their culture, and as a matter of fact, in cultures overseas today, dreams mean a lot. This is the reason why they would pour so much money into the offices of soothsayers and magicians and wise men in the Old Testament. You see those talked about a lot. It's because for them, the dreams were the playgrounds of the gods. And they wanted to ensure that if the gods had a message to give to them, that they would receive it. So, Nebuchadnezzar has one of these dreams, and it overwhelms him to the point where he is not going to be duped. Matter of fact, he calls in his soothsayers and he says, okay, here's my proposition. You're going to tell me what the dream is before I even tell you, and then I'll listen to your interpretation. And they're freaking out. They're like, that can't happen. There's no way. And he's like, well, that's the way it's going to be. And if you can't do it, I'm going to put your houses into rubble and I'm going to cut you into pieces. And they're like, well, there's just no way. He says, fine, then you're going to die. So Arioch, the chief general of the Babylonian army, goes to Daniel, and he's going to escort him off so that he can be killed. And Daniel's like, hey, let me go talk to the king. And Arioch's like, fine, it's your head, go ahead. He goes into Nebuchadnezzar, and Daniel says, hey, just give me some time. Nebuchadnezzar says, that's fine, but the rules don't change for you. They don't change. You have to tell me the dream and tell me the interpretation. Daniel says, fine. Calls together a prayer meeting of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They pray. God reveals it to him. And what God reveals to him is this picture. See, because what Nebuchadnezzar had, he had this dream, and it was a dream of a statue, but the statue was separated into 4 different sections of 4 different metals. You had the top, which was the head of gold, which represented Babylon. You had the chest and arms that was silver, and that represented Medo-Persia. You had the belly and the thighs that was bronze, and that represented the Greek Empire. And then you had the legs and the feet that were mixed with iron and clay, and that represented the Roman Empire. Okay, now I know that's a lot of stuff thrown at you, but hang with me. Because it's interesting, because this very same vision is delivered to Daniel in chapter 7, but with a twist. See, because instead of having this statue with 4 different sections, he sees 4 beasts emerging from a sea. And the first beast is this, it's this lion-eagle hybrid.
Bless you too. And if you are going to be at Oktoberfest, let me know. Send me an email and I'll meet you there. We'll do a Bible study. That would be fun.
And the second, which corresponds to the head of gold, okay, Babylon. You follow me so far? The second beast that he sees is this lopsided bear that's chewing on 3 ribs and is told to go eat its fill of the flesh. It's just what it says. I'm not making this up.
A fill of the
and that
flesh.
corresponds to the chest and arms of silver or Medo-Persia. Now, hang with me. There's gonna be a point to this. The third beast he sees is this hybrid between I think it's a cheetah. Is that right? Cheetah? Leopard, thank you. I knew it was one of those spotted ones. A leopard and a bird, and this one represents or correlates to the belly and the thighs made of bronze or the Greek Empire. And the final beast is so grotesque that it cannot even be compared to anything in creation. It is just called this terrifying, grotesque, evil beast. And this correlates to the legs or the feet made of iron and clay mixed. Now, I don't want you to miss the magnificence of what God is doing here. I don't want you to miss it.
Yes.
See, because God is revealing something about who he is, about what he desires, about what he demands from us. But first of all, I want you to catch the magnificence of the prediction. Because if you notice, this spans from Babylon to Rome. Do you know how many years that is? You see, Nebuchadnezzar gets this dream at around 605. That's when Babylon is starting to really reign. But Medo-Persia, the second section, does not come on the scene until 539, whenever Babylon falls. You're talking about 70 years. That's pretty impressive. But Medo-Persia, though, reigns until around 330.
Welcome, Mr. Bob. We only got 15 minutes left of this lecture, but feel free to drop some statements in there. Oh, Trump 2024. I heard he was almost assassinated today again. I'm glad he wasn't.
331, whenever Greek takes over. You see the magnificence? That's a couple hundred years. And the Greek Empire would reign until around the 1st century BC, when Rome would take over, and then they would reign for another about 400 or 500 years. So what God, in essence, has done is in 605 BC, he reveals what's going to happen in the next 600 years or more. Now that is a prediction, isn't it? The amazing thing about it is that's what actually happens. You can flip open a history book and it says the same thing.
Well, and this is really interesting just for the historical context of the Bible, right? So I feel like that's where the truth interlays with the faith and spiritual side. But yeah, Cindy, you said, unfortunately, you're low on money and from northern Germany. I think I won't be there this year, but I hope your audience will be awesome. Well, I'm planning on doing some Bible studies when I'm in Germany, so I don't know. Maybe if you're not too far away, I hear Germany's small, so maybe I'll drive up to see you. But anyways, that would be fun. I hope the audience is still good. But isn't this crazy? Like, I'm actually looking this up right now and looking at the King Nebuchadnezzar. Was the second king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, ruling, like you said, from 605 BC to 562 BC. He's considered one of the greatest kings of ancient Babylon, known for his military conquests, architectural achievements, and cultural patronage. Just as interesting. So it just talks about achievements in different aspects. It talks about the biblical accounts. Says he's featured prominently in the Hebrew Bible, particularly in the books of Daniel and 2 Kings. And according to these 2 accounts, he had a series of dreams, as he said, that Daniel interpreted, revealing the future of empires and kingdoms. He ordered the construction of a golden image of himself, which Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to worship, as he was just talking, leading to the miraculous deliverance from a fiery furnace. And so then it says he acknowledged the God of Israel as the true God, declaring, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants. And you can find that in Daniel chapter 3, verse 28. Anyways, I just thought I would drop that real quick. I thought that was cool. And welcome, Ryan. How are you doing? I'm going to pop this sermon or this thing back on because I'm going to try to get out of here in a little bit. But I will, 14 more minutes roughly.
It's a fascinating prediction, but if we only stop with the prediction, then it's only God showing or flexing his divine muscle. It doesn't really mean anything except for the fact that God can tell the future. You see the problem with that? We'll get into that more in a little bit. What I think that this does is this. It reveals, number one, who God is. Who is God? He is the all-powerful, sovereign ruler over all of history. That's who it reveals that he is. He is the all-powerful, sovereign ruler over history. How do I know this? Well, number one, he can accurately pinpoint what's going to happen at least 600 years or more ahead. That's impressive. But merely information doesn't constitute sovereignty. There also needs to be an element of orchestration. You following me? And it's fascinating because if you read in Daniel 7, there's this underlying force that's moving it's moving beast to beast. Let me give you an example. The first beast, the lion/bird beast.
Ryan, what are you asking about? What's with my top? What about my top?
It has its wings ripped off. And my question is, by whom? Who ripped them off? It's then said that the beast is stood up on its two legs. My question is, by whom? Who stood him up? It's then told that the beast is given a heart, like a heart of man. And once again, my question is, by whom? Who gave him the heart? The second beast, who is the lopsided bear chewing on some ribs, is told to go eat its fill of the flesh. And my question is, by whom? Who told that bear to go and eat its fill of the...
Car 24/7. What's going on? No, I am not in a dream. I'm in a daze. I'm dialed in to listen about this. This guy was actually really interesting. I did a sermon the other day on Revelation, so check it out. It's actually, you might learn something.
Flash. You see, Daniel's telling us something. He's saying that even though all of history looks as if the world is writing the annals and our chronicles, in reality, it is the all-powerful, sovereign God over all of history. See, his prediction is actually revealing who God is. But there's an interesting, also, little caveat, is he also shows us what God desires. And this comes in Daniel chapter 7, verses 13 through 14. This is a beautiful Old Testament passage. If you don't have this memorized, you need to. Daniel chapter 7, verses 13 through 14 says this. This is Daniel speaking. He says, "In my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man. And he was coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. And he was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All peoples, nations, and men of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed." Now I'm going to make a suggestion here, and I'm going to prove it through Revelation chapter 1, is that this one like the Son of Man here in Daniel 7 is Jesus. This is why this passage is so fascinating, because we're in the Old Testament. But this is Jesus, and here's how I want to show it to you. Turn to Revelation chapter 1. I know I'm going through this quickly, but...
Hey, Bram. How's it going? Down in Brazil. I'm in Colorado, and we have somebody from Germany in here. Welcome, guys, from across the world.
Sorry. Bad tape, I don't know what to tell you. Verse 7 says this. Now we're going to build the case step by step. Verse 7 of Revelation chapter 1 says, "Look, he is coming with the clouds." Now that is an interesting phrase, because how was it that the Son of Man in chapter 13 or in verse 13 was coming in Daniel 7? What's that? Coming with the clouds. Now I know that's not very, very impressive yet, but let's skip down to verse 12. John speaking here, and he says, "I turned around to see the voice, which that's interesting. How do you see a voice? But I turned around to see the voice that was speaking to me. And when I turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands, and among the lampstands was someone like a son of man. We'd heard that phrase before. Where? Daniel chapter 7, verse 13 through 14. He is dressed in a robe reaching down to his feet and with a golden sash around his chest. His head and hair were white like wool. Listen to this. His head and hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like blazing fire. Now flip back to Daniel chapter 7. First of all, with the coming of the clouds, that's interesting, because that's not a very, very commonly used phrase. But then you have him refer to him as one like a son of man. That's interesting, because it seems like he's pulling from something. But look in verse 9 of Daniel chapter 7. Verse 9 of Daniel chapter 7 says this. As I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was as white as snow. The hair of his head was white like wool, and his throne was flaming with fire, and its wheels were all ablaze. Here's what I think's happening. You see, John on Patmos sees the cosmic Christ. It's the same cosmic Christ that I am suggesting that Daniel chapter 7 saw, but there's a twist. Because in Daniel chapter 7, it is the Ancient of Days who is as white as snow, who has hair white like wool, and who has sitting on a throne of blazing fire. But in Revelation chapter 1, it is Jesus who has hair white like wool, looks as white as snow, and in his eyes is flickering the fire of the Ancient of Days' throne. You see what John's doing? How did this happen?
Eric, the actor, I remember you too. How's everything going? You handed stuff with each other in the men's room at the Walmart. No, that's not true. But remember, you and I talked extensively. I remember you too. Anyways, how's it going? Been praying for you.
Well, it happened on a cross and an empty tomb. You see, because at the cross and the empty tomb, a kingdom was established. What was Jesus' message whenever he came to the earth? One of the first things he says, repent, for the kingdom of God is near. And what I think John is showing, because if you notice in Daniel chapter 7, verse 13 through 14, what happens to the one like a son of man there? He receives dominion and power, and his kingdom will last forever and ever, and he builds it and builds it. And what John is saying is this, it's here. Look at him if you don't believe me. Do you see the power of what he's developing? What I think John's suggesting with this prediction is this. Who is God? He's the all-powerful sovereign ruler of all history. What does he desire? The climax of history, which is the kingdom. Namely, the coming of his Messiah. You see, we'll talk about this later, but I want to talk about it now. Yes. Yes.
I mean, I believe everything that we believe. But how well schooled was, I mean, weren't they well schooled in Old Testament scripture?
Yes.
So wouldn't he already have some of this knowledge of
Who?
John?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, so to me, he could be repeating what he was taught.
Okay, but we have in Revelation chapter 1, he's saying he received these visions while standing on the island of Patmos. It's not necessarily revealing total new things to John. You have to realize John's plight at this time. I mean,
What do you guys think? I'm curious. Just interesting to think about what is God's opinion of, like, where was the peak of everything in the Bible for him? I feel like that's a really interesting point. Never really even thought about that.
He's on an island banished away from the churches he's been pastoring. And the church, he's the last apostle living. It doesn't look good for the church, because the last apostle is about to die. And what I think Revelation's doing is it's delivering a message of hope, reiterating and reestablishing what they know about who God is. But I mean, the reality is this. When you go through things in your life, isn't it hard to keep in perspective who God is? I mean, isn't it? Whenever Sarah and I had our miscarriage 2 summers ago, it was very hard for me to say that God is a sovereign, all-powerful ruler. It was difficult for me.
What do you guys think about that? I feel like that's so true. I actually had that happen had a buddy on here that we were doing Bible studies with, and all of a sudden it was like his life got really difficult right when we started doing the Bible studies. And I felt like it's very obvious that he's being attacked spiritually. And he turned away from it. And I think that that is exactly what the enemy wants, is for us to turn away the minute that things get difficult, right? But anyways, I feel like that was my personal opinion and perspective. But I feel like it's interesting because it's like, this is a sign of the times when you are the last man standing, right?
But it doesn't mean it wasn't true. And it doesn't mean I didn't know that. It just means I had to be reminded of that. I had to have it re-revealed to me. And so I think that's part of what Revelation is doing. But what I think John does here also is he's in case people are missing it, he wants to show that what is talked about in the Old Testament has come to its fruition in Christ and the church. And that's why these, matter of fact, we'll talk about this in a couple of weeks, but in 404 verses of Revelation, there's over 500 allusions to the Old Testament. They knew their Old Testament. But the beauty of it is whenever you see the interconnectedness of what John's doing in Revelation, is you see how God has developed his salvation history throughout all of the pages of the Bible, and not just the New Testament. Jesus is in the Old Testament. I'm not saying look for him under every rock, but whenever it's pretty obvious, let him be there. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, John would have known this, but they would have needed reminded. They would have needed reminded. That's my take on it anyway. But I know we have one more element, do we not? We know what the prediction of Daniel saying who God is, and I think that we even know what he's saying what God desires, the climax of history, or the kingdom being established through his Messiah. But there's the third element of what God demands of us, and after this one we'll take about a 5-minute break. What God demands of us makes Daniel freak out. Because in Daniel chapter 7, verse 28, he says, I turned pale, and I was disturbed to my core. And then he says, but I just didn't tell anybody about it. And the first time I read it, I was like, no, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. Because I was just told that the kingdom was going to be established to reign forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And then you say, I turned pale. I was deeply distressed. The reason why is because, you see, Daniel understands the way the kingdom attains victory. Because if you notice, you go from Babylon down to the first beast down to the fourth beast. And the fourth beast is so grotesque and evil that it can't even be parallel to anything in creation. And what God is saying to Daniel is this. Yeah, Babylon's bad, but it's going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse. It's going to get so worse, I can't even describe it. I mean, I can talk about how this beast has teeth like iron because it is so vicious that all the other three beasts combined maybe will match how mean and vicious this beast is. It's a nasty one. And Daniel's going, come again? I'm sorry, what? If you're the sovereign ruler, then what is happening? Why is it in Daniel chapter 7, verse 21, does it say that God's people, the saints, will be handed over and be delivered into oppression? Matter of fact, 7:25 of Daniel actually even more specifically says, God delivers the saints over to the oppressive agents.
Yeah, seeing you were saying, are you affirming that?
You see, because what the cross teaches us is that in the kingdom of God, the way we attain victory is through suffering. And that is not something that we like to hear.
No.
And that is not something that Daniel liked to hear. It's going to get worse. But that is the beautiful reality about the kingdom that we are in, is that we do not have to punch someone when they punch us. We can turn the other cheek because in the kingdom of God, we attain victory through suffering. And like I said, the cross teaches us that. Christ, the true Israel, taught the church, the new Israel, that we attain victory through suffering. Does that make sense? I know, wanting to look at passages like Revelation 17:6, when it talks about the harlot on the beast that is drunk on the blood of the saints. I know how passages like that make my blood boil. Because the bottom line is, I just want to be kept safe and comforted. I just want to be, I just want to be raptured out of here before anything bad happens. Here's my problem.
Yeah.
That's not what we're promised throughout the entire Bible, especially the New Testament. That's not what we're promised. What does Jesus say, promise to us? If you follow me, what are you going to have to do? Pick up your cross, then come follow me. Blessed are those that are persecuted because of me. What does John talk about? Or not John, Paul, in all of his letters. I know how you have been suffering, but consider yourself worthy to suffer for the sake of Christ. What is it that is constantly through the books of the Bible that we ignore? It's suffering. And this is a concept in America that is so hard for us to understand, but this is what is being revealed. Now here's my question. If I boiled this down to just a prediction, how much of the message would we miss? See my problem. And how do you obey a prediction? I don't know.
Yeah. See, this is a lot. It's part of why I wanted to study it, but it's also a challenge because I felt like it was really going to dig in on the intellectual and the spiritual side that I feel like I'm not very good at. So I was like, oh man, I feel like I need to take this challenge, but I don't know if I want to.
Like for instance, if I said the lottery numbers in the next 2 weeks or whatever it is are going to be this, and this, obey it. How do I obey a number that you told me was going to happen? But it's interesting because Revelation chapter 1 verse 3 says, blessed are those that hear the words of this prophecy and obey them. Here's what I'm suggesting. Prophecy in the Bible is not about prediction.
Hey, Syrian, yeah, you want to shout out for Stephen Malone? Sure, why not? Welcome to the channel. Thank you.
It is about a revelation. It is about a revelation of who God is, what God desires, and what God demands of us. If prediction is used, it is simply used as an agent to get this message across. Matter of fact, D.B. Sandy in his book, Plowshares and Pruning Hooks, says that the function of a prophecy is to make the prosecution and the persuasion more convincing. In other words, prediction's just a vehicle to get the real message across. And if you stop at the prediction, you're going to miss the message. And this is the definition I'm suggesting that we need to come to the book of Revelation with. Does that make sense? Okay, you guys get 5 minutes. Oh, that's 2 minutes fast. Beautiful. You guys get 5 minutes, and we'll come back, and I'm going to start at 8:04 on the dot.
All right, so that's interesting. Prediction is used to help get the message across. Because a lot of people think that this is just kind of a figurative thing. Like, they don't really think that the world's going to end. But, I mean, let's just be real. Like, if we know anything about physics, which, oh, I realize my door is cracked. I think people are listening through the cracks. Just kidding. But I think that the interesting part about this is that it does get you engaged because it's got that wow factor to it, right? And I think that that's why people also try to align themselves so heavily with being in line with being right about predicting the future. I mean, there's a lot of people that really want to do it, but they don't understand like the underlying tools that are required to even be close to accurate, right? But when you're looking at this book, you know, my mother, who has her master's in theology, we talk about, well, they used to study the past and then they could predict the future. And a lot of that is similar to, I brought up the Elliott wave theory, and I wonder, I could kind of look that up and see what it says about that. But it kind of, hello USA Animations, how are you? So this is actually in the financial kind of realm, but it says the Elliott wave theory is a technical, move my phone kind of, a technical analyst concept used to forecast financial market trends, particularly in the stock market. So it was actually developed by this guy, Ralph Nelson Elliott, in the 1930s. He suggests financial markets move in a series of predictable and repetitive waves driven by investor sentiment or psychology. So there's all sorts of different things. There's 4 different key principles, which I feel like are interesting, but also could be applied here in the spiritual, biblical, like the study of culture, right? Thank you, USA Animations, by the way. And I am pretty good. I'm a little tired, but I still got things to do. So thank you for subscribing and joining us. But I feel like this is interesting because this is, they're going to use key principles to tie into other things. But if the revelation of Jesus Christ is that we can kind of look at human nature and know what's coming next because we know how people behave, right? So I feel like that's interesting going into the rest of what we're doing. And I realize we probably covered day 2 as well, or day 2 as well as 3. But you gotta go. Well, thank you for joining. Try to catch us later, all right? And I will talk to you soon. Thank you again for subscribing. I do appreciate it. But day 3 in this study says, from the get-go, Revelation lays out the completeness of God's kingdom and points to the new creation. Jesus is described as the firstborn from the dead, the ruler over all kings, and the first and the last, the Alpha and the Omega. Faith in his supremacy means that we can face whatever is to come, knowing that the kingdom will one day be established fully on earth as it is in heaven. I feel like it's a lot to it, honestly. But I think that the one thing that we know is that life here on this planet is not going to last for forever. I mean, you even look at, like, let's say the sun for an energy source. At some point, the sun is going to run out of fuel, right? And I mean, it can only have so much fuel, unless, I guess, maybe it's absorbing other mass and burning that up. I don't know how that actually works. Ranban, how's it going? Welcome to the channel. But I feel like that was interesting to me. At least that's my general comprehension. And I know that stars can either explode or implode. And I think it's based upon their size, according to the laws of physics. So, but I think I read something in here about, I think there was something interesting. So this is the Ray Comfort Bible. My hairline imploded. Yeah, it's been imploding. That's what happens when you get older. The good news is they don't feel old. They just look it sometimes. But anyways, Ramban, thank you. I need more people to troll me. I've been dropping down the charts. So let's see what this talks about. Perfection of mercy and love. Says, if you have studied the matchless purity of Jesus' character with adoring admiration, you must have been amazed at the absolute perfection of his manhood and the glory of his moral and spiritual character. At such times, if you have had a true sense of your own position, you have been ready to sink into the dust, and you have exclaimed, "Shall he wash my feet? Shall he give himself for me? Can it be that he could have loved one so stained and polluted, so mean and so beggarly?" Is that a word? I guess I didn't know that. But so altogether unworthy even to live, much less to be loved by such an altogether lovely one. But I pray you always to remember when you think of his perfection, that he has perfection of mercy as well as of holiness, and perfection of love to sinners, as well as perfection of hatred of sin, and that, guilty as you are, you must never doubt his affection, for he has pledged you in his heart's blood and proved his love by his death. And that was by Charles Spurgeon, if I'm saying that correctly. I have not read things by him, but I've seen a million quotes. But it says, well, in chapter 2, it goes on to say, the nearer our souls draw to God, the larger our love will grow, and the greater our love, the more unselfish we shall become, and the greater our care for the souls of others. And that's A.W. Tozer. And that's actually, it is true. Like when you're really, oh, I got some comments here. Ranban, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. It's actually kind of fun when I get teased. I feel the love. Reminds me of my brothers. Yassine says some people say the Abrahamic him. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. The scriptures or grimoires, keys for living a spiritual, high-powered life, and reading specific peace of mind to free the inner self and transcend it with the universe. That's actually interesting. And is that powered life, living a spiritual high? Yeah. Well, I got two of you guys, but yeah, thanks, Ranban. But no, I think I'm gonna have to look that up and see if I can translate that from German, if that part of that's German. I don't know if I have translation on. Oh, and I did not have the live chat, so hopefully I didn't miss out on stuff from other people. But I'm gonna copy this. Give me 1 sec. And let's go back here to Google Translate. I'm on my phone, so I apologize. I have to keep going back and forth. Anyways, did you guys have a nice Sunday? Some people say the writings of Abraham are grimoires. I'm not sure if I've ever heard that word before. Keys to a spiritual life full of power and attaining to a certain peace of mind, to liberate the inner self and to be transcendent with the universe. I like that. What is, I'm not sure if I know what that word is. Grimoires? Oh, see dictionary. I knew what I was trying to do. A book of magic spells and invocations. I think, yeah, it's interesting because how else would you interpret it, right? So I think much of the Bible includes things that are supernatural, but I think there's got to be some sort of supernatural component to it, right? Yassine, if you need to go, you are welcome to go. If you need prayer before you go, I'll pray because I am about to close out. But the, let's see, was I pronouncing it right?
Grimoire.
Grimoire. Okay, interesting. So, but I think, so if you read the book of Genesis, which I just did, you have to get into some of the supernatural things because, and I mean, I wasn't there. So again, it comes back to, this is my belief. It's not I wasn't there. I didn't experience it. I just believe that the Bible has the most accuracy in looking at a spiritual, historical text that tells kind of a story of how to live life, what happened, and how life originated. So I feel like that's something that kind of, that's the reason I started there, because I felt like that was going to make the most sense to me. But I also felt like it was something I really needed to dig deep on. So, anyways, that was all. So, I'm gonna actually close out in prayer, but thank you guys for joining. I know that these lectures are full of a lot of content, and I really enjoy them. But I played the first 30 minutes on the Bible study I had yesterday. So if you want to catch that, that's the beginning of what is prophecy. So it's the first 30 minutes. And what is tomorrow? Let's see what he has tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be the historical setting. So that's actually going to be interesting because that kind of ties in with this, but I'm sure he's going to elaborate more. I haven't listened to these, so I don't know what he's getting into, but I'm genuinely curious. So anyways, I'm going to just close out. Dear God, thank you for today. Thank you for everything you've given us. Thank you for these lovely people that have joined me. I just pray for your peace, protection, prosperity to be poured over them, as well as myself, all my family, friends, and loved ones. I ask that you give us good health, allow us to rest well, allow us to close off the week, and just to honor you in the way that we conduct ourselves and approach other people throughout the rest of the week. Just be with us, God, in all that we do, and allow us to echo out your presence in our heart and our mind and our body out to those around us. But thank you, God, for just joining us tonight. And I thank you for all the things that you've done for us this last week. It was great. Anyways, in your name, amen. So thank you, Yassine, Ranban, whoever else was on here. And thank you to the Rumble audience. So good night and God bless y'all. And I will catch you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.